Do you like history? Do you like it when other people are wrong and you're right? Do you have the strangest sense of deja vu? Yeah, so today I'm going to be finishing off the video topic of listing factual inaccuracies in epic rap battles of history. Go watch the first video to get caught up to speed. I would like to point out that this scene shows a frost giant walking on the Bifrost, which can't happen. It would incinerate any giant that walked on it, except a fire giant because, fire can't be incinerated. I hear you call yourself an explorer, but I'm just not having it. You discovered a world that was already inhabited. This is a reference to Jack the Ripper eating the kidney of a woman he killed, but here's the thing, he fried it first. Jack the Ripper's nickname comes from a famous letter from a series allegedly sent by the Ripper himself. This letter is widely believed to be a hoax, but there are some pieces of evidence in favor of Jack himself writing it. There's a lot riding on Tarantino being right about this, so I did Wikipedia that, despite how much I dislike Wikipedia, and what do you know? It's inaccurate. Alfred Hitchcock did attempt to join the British Army, and he succeeded. He joined the Royal Engineers, a non combat role, and was deemed only suitable for sedentary work. I can only assume because he's fat, but a reason was not given for this. This is a poor choice of words by Lewis and Clark. Their expedition encountered all of these, but they only discovered, in the sense of bringing them to European knowledge, bears, prairie dogs, catfish, and rattlesnakes, leaving weasels, beavers, owls, larks, and eagles as inaccuracies. Houdini's failure to have children was in no way his failure. It was a condition his wife had where she literally couldn't have a period, which, I might add, is a fascinating condition to study. That's a bold claim. Jefferson is generally credited with the invention of the swivel chair, except by his own Monticello Foundation, who lists it as unknown. I'm not going to spend too long on this section, but suffice it to say, I imagine this to at least be accurate to what Jefferson thought about himself. Like, if Frederick Douglass confronted Thomas Jefferson, he might say this. Well, he probably wouldn't rhyme. This might be entirely my opinion, but I think Douglas is giving the 13th Amendment too much credit. All it did was free the slaves, and they weren't even considered full citizens until the 14th Amendment, which was ratified July 9th, 1868. And if he wanted to mention an abolitionist holiday, why not Juneteenth? It's much more well known, and also it's an actual holiday. I don't know. This isn't really an inaccuracy, but I think it does reflect upon a lack of historical literacy, which is what this video is about more broadly. I'm not going to spend too long on this video because thinking about it makes my head hurt, but I had to comment on the Genius article for this page because every annotation in Jenner's first verse refers to her bars using he, him pronouns. It even goes as far as to use the line, and a very attractive man while he was one. And that's not how transgender works. You don't switch from being a man to being a woman. You realize that you always were a woman, and then you take steps to affirm that, right? Sorry, that's what I get for not skipping this one when it came up. I'm not sure if this is intended to be hyperbole by Alexander or paraphrasing the claim that he never lost a war, but famously, he was forced to retreat from an attempted invasion of India. Even if that's not a loss, it still constitutes a war he fought and failed to win. Alexander the Great was from a region called Macedonia, and by citizenship, he could be considered to be Macedonian. By nationality, however, he was Greek and had no relation to the modern day Macedonian nationality. Ivan didn't kill his son by impaling or otherwise piercing. He bludgeoned him to death with the spiked tip of his scepter. Donald Trump was a celebrity guest in WrestleMania 23, facing off against Vince McMahon, whom you may know as the guy from the meme gifs. However, this occurred in 2007 when Hillary Clinton was still a senator. She didn't move into the West Wing until 2009. Rodham is Clinton's maiden name. Her middle name is Diane. The United Kingdom can fit within a larger state like Montana or Wyoming, so his claim is true on its own, but the video shows the UK as equal to Alabama, and it's actually England on its own that's equal to Alabama. The UK at large is bigger. Churchill and Roosevelt weren't in power at the same time. Teddy Roosevelt came almost 40 years earlier. While Teddy Roosevelt might not be stopped by a bullet, you can stop an actual bull moose with one bullet if you puncture its lungs with a high enough caliber round. What? I'm from New England, I know this. Honestly, I could probably make a whole section on people saying I was doing X while you were doing Y. But Elon Musk didn't floss until at least 15 years after Zuck double-crossed the Winklevoss twins. This is going to be a weird one, but V for Vendetta is rarely Alan Moore's third best. It's usually the second best after Watchmen, or the fifth best after From Hell Top 10 and Batman the Killing Joke. We don't actually know where the spike containing Guy Fawkes' head is. London Bridge is just the usual answer because that's where most criminals went. Yo, this bar sucks. George Carlin was born and raised in Manhattan. He grew up in a neighborhood he called White Harlem, and he attended schools in both the Bronx and Harlem, though he dropped out of both of them pretty quickly. Jacques Cousteau used dynamite, not C4, to blow up a section of the reef. Sigmund Freud did abuse cocaine constantly, but he never actually built a tolerance for it, because he never actually became addicted to it, seeing as he was able to quit it cold turkey after his father's death. The Harry Potter series is, technically, outsold by the Holy Bible and the Quran. I don't know, have you seen Mary Kate recently? She's pretty creepy. Iwar the Boneless is called boneless because of his severe birth defects, but he didn't literally lack bones. Also, the Old Norse word bein can mean either leg or bone, and the Norse term legless can also mean, third legless. Historically speaking, this is inaccurate. For Leonidas, I was willing to let this sort of thing slide because he was clearly meant to be the character from 300, but I'm not so sure Ragnar is just meant to be the character from Vikings, especially since Richard calls out his real self next to his legend in the second verse. If he isn't, then this line is inaccurate to the fate of his wife Aslaug. The royal we, an authority figure referring to themselves using a plural pronoun, was not created by King Richard I. Accounts of it being used in any language can be traced all the way back to the Bible, and it was probably introduced into English by a man named William de Longchamp under King Richard's reign, so he could probably be considered the first English king to use it. Camels still piss, just not very often. The guy in charge of Cairo at the time, Al Nasir Muhammad, was the Mamluk Sultan, not just the king of Cairo. Despite tensions about who would bow to whom, neither monarch ended up bowing to the other. Mansa Musa killing his own mother is a very obscure and unverified historical account. I mean, I guess it's fair game, but honestly, where do you draw the line? It took him nearly 1 year. Beyond that, the flash in the pan hip hop conflicts of nowadays are all 100% accurate. And I guess that's all of. Oh, never mind. Here's King Henry VIII versus Hillary Clinton. Pew, 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 pew. Again, England is a little bit bigger than Ohio, but the UK at large, even not including Ireland, which hadn't yet been annexed, and Scotland, which was, like a weird limbo type thing, is still significantly larger. There was never a war between King Henry VIII's England and Spain. That occurred during the reign of his daughter, Queen Elizabeth I. In fact, his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, was a member of the Spanish royal family. So, what do we learn from this? A possible conclusion is that in the first season, ERB's inaccuracy count wasn't very high, suddenly spiked in the second season, and has since been declining with no significant change. This is also the conclusion that every single video about ERB has come to about every facet of it. If I did have to say something unique, I would point out that they do seem to be more interested in the mythological and cultural perceptions of these characters rather than the actual historical figures, which might make sense. I do think that the series would benefit from more historical accuracy if nothing was lost, but if you have to rely on dubious accounts to get the right insult, flow, or rhyme, I say go for it. And I'm sure ERB, a channel with 50 million subscribers, is very glad that they have my blessing. Thanks for watching. Today's video is sponsored by